Hi everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here with a special announcement. Subscribe to Hack the Movies and my new podcast, Castzilla versus the PodMonster. I'm sure a link will be here for where you can get that. It's on most platforms. Let's see, today I got this letter from the Nindevil and apparently I'm supposed to read it, so here we go. Ahem. Dear Mr. The Movies, I am the Nindevil. I understand you have a copy of The Flintstones, Surprise at Dinosaur Peak for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Would you please send it to me? I need it for something totally not evil or nefarious at all, and anybody involved is totally acting according to their own free will. If you're unable to meet this request, I will have no choice but to tell the blueberry cobbler what you did with the ham sandwich. Sincerely, the Nindevil. Okay, so yes, I do have a copy of The Flintstones Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. But no, I'm not going to give it to you, Mr. Nindevil. I don't respond well to threats. And for the record, the Blueberry Cobbler and I are doing just fine. Now, if you don't mind, I have a purely business meeting with a tuna salad with emotional problems. Goodbye.
Surprise! 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 Oh man, I'm so excited, I can't wait, So here's the deal. The game that we're about to play is one that I have been wanting to play for a while. It's a little rare and it can be kind of expensive sometimes. Maybe you've heard of it. Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. I'm sure it's not going to be very good, but it'll be so cool to play.
Hey!
Oh, here we go with this guy again.
So, no surprise at Dinosaur Peak today.
What? Why?
That's too expensive. I can't afford it right now.
You're a devil, and not just any devil, the Nindevil. Why would money matter to you? Can't you just make the game, like, appear? Oof.
This isn't I Dream of Jeannie. I can't just make it appear out of thin air. That would be stealing. And that would be wrong.
Wrong? Again, you're a devil. Why would you care about right or wrong?
Hey, I might be a devil, but I still have my scruples.
You know, man, I was really looking forward to playing this game. And not just because it's rare, but think about it. It's the Flintstones. You get to go back in time to the Stone Age. You get to get involved in jungle platforming hijinks.
Well, then I have something just as good. You want to go back in time? You want to go into the jungle? The next two games are Mario's Time Machine and The Jungle Book. Have fun!
Let's get this over with.
The graphics are very Super Mario World-esque. It is a trip to see that on the NES. And the story here is that Bowser has opened a museum but stolen many items from the past. Yoshi, for some idiotic reason, rushes into the museum, and Bowser is now holding him captive. In order to get Yoshi back, we need to return the stolen items to their proper time.
But that's what a museum is. A place with a bunch of stuff from the past on display. Some would argue that stuff is stolen. I guess the difference here is Bowser went back in time to take this stuff, but wouldn't that alter the present day if he did that? We better not get into this time travel stuff.
And who cares if Yoshi is held captive? There are tons of Yoshis all over the place in other Mario games. So, spoiler alert, this is supposed to be an educational game. You go through these red Bowser doors where you get treated as something like the original Mario Bros. You beat the turtles and they drop an apple. I get the apple, then jump into this machine that I assume is a time machine. At the top it shows the time destination. Okay. If it's an apple, I'm going to assume it has something to do with Newton, and I'm pretty sure he's somewhere in the 1600s, so let's choose 1687. So then we get to something that actually looks like a level. Hit these yellow interaction blocks and they treat you to some information. There's a little bit of investigative platforming, and then I make it over to this tree. I select the apple, but it says I'm in the wrong place, and now I'm stuck down here.
Something seems wrong here. Let me just reset the game.
I pick a different door this time, and the item is a torch. Kinda crazy that the Koopa had a lit torch in its pocket, or shell. I'm also assuming this is going to be related to the Olympics, and they probably want me to assume it's the super old Olympics. So let's go ahead and pick 776 BC. Sure enough, this looks like ancient Greece-y. Pick the torch and press start, and Mario appears in the newspaper, which hasn't been invented yet. I hope this doesn't alter the course of time negatively. Next, I get a light bulb. When I hop back in the time machine, I see 776 BC is still an option. That means we gotta keep track of where we've gone. Or when we've gone. I'm going to assume light bulb is referring to Edison, and he was sometime in the late 1800s. 1860s feels a bit early to me. So let's pick the next one up. Just walk through some guy's house over to a bouncy couch, and now Mario is in the paper for returning the light bulb. Next, I'm going to retry the apple. I decide I'm not happy with the other time choices, so I get back to this tree, and this time I try it on top of the tree, and it works.
Come on! Why does it matter if I was on the tree or below it? It's not like Newton was on the tree when the apple hit him in the head. Unless Mario had to be there to hit him in the head with the apple in the first place. What the heck? Dang it, Newton!
Oh man, next is a sledgehammer.
Stop. I was planning on making a joke or a bit right here about Peter Gabriel and a sledgehammer, but the irate gamer already beat me to that. So we're going to just go to the next section.
Next is an egg. Okay, so whenever omelets or chickens were invented. That seems really old, so let's do 80 million BC. I know, it's a dinosaur egg, so let's just drop it in this cave here and move on. Next is Abe Lincoln's hat, which we drop off in Gettysburg, and then a steering wheel. Cars were probably from the late 1800s at the earliest, but there's nothing else to choose that really would make sense, so I guess it's really a steering wheel for a ship. Magellan was around the turn of the century, so we'll try 1502. And it works. Cool. And so, it goes on. I return a quill pen to Shakespeare, the American flag to the moon, take a throne back to Egypt, and give the Wright brothers their propeller.
That's very noble of Mario to do, seeing as how the Mario brothers and the Wright brothers are rap battle enemies.
The Mario's Time Machine was originally developed and published for MS-DOS and Super Nintendo. A different company came along and developed the same game for the NES, while the original company went ahead and published it for them. That's kind of weird, and for whatever reason, someone decided, hey, this thing needs to show up on the NES, so it was released in 1994. It should be noted, though, that the NES version is pretty different from the MS-DOS and SNES versions. There's nothing else to say, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Time for the end of the game. First, you have a pop quiz. To know the answers, you need to have been checking those yellow information boxes throughout the levels. Newton invented calculus. Okay. 12 seconds for the first flight. Subdue barbarians, whatever. Then we go through the door, and I'm really digging the music here. Get to Bowser, jump on his head, dodge his spin attack, jump a few more times, get the key, and free Yoshi. The game is beat, alright.
Is it a great action platformer? No, of course not. But that's not what the developers were trying to do here. They wanted to make an educational game with just a little bit of platforming to keep it lively. For what it is, I suppose Mario's Time Machine is a fine game. Had I been playing this as a kid, and hitting boxes and just guessing time frames, well, yeah, I guess that could get pretty boring. But if there's a kid who wants to hit those boxes and read the information and figure it out, well, I suppose that would be rewarding in a way different from the traditional Mario game, where you have to use your brains more than your brawn. Or thumbs, I guess. So if any of you out there have a kid and you can get a copy of this game, maybe give it a try. You can learn something and teach something at the same time. What can I say? This game is beat, but it's a twofer. Jungle Book, let's go.
You play as Mowgli. He jumps, he moves, and he can shoot bananas. I hope this jungle canopy is thick because he's not supposed to get wet, eat after midnight, or have direct sunlight. Oh, wait a minute. I'm thinking of Mogwai. Never mind.
I'm a Mogwai. You ain't not a Mogwai.
At the bottom of the screen, it shows the number 10 next to a gem symbol. We're going to get to that in a second. There is a heart meter which drains when you take damage, so I have to say, I like that we aren't going for the whole one-hit deaths thing here. There's also a timer in the corner. My first impression is that this is just a standard platformer. Run to the right, take out enemies, and get to the end. Along the way, there are these purple flowers which act as checkpoints. We can climb higher using vines or launch ourselves up. The hanging vines can be used to swing from one to the next, which seems appropriate since we are in the jungle after all. But, okay, back to the gems. I made it all the way to the end of the level and nothing happened. It turns out you have to collect enough gems to get the gem counter down to 0, so the game focuses on exploration in addition to platforming. Be sure to scour every part of the level. I found exactly 10 gems in this first level, which leads me to assume there will not be extra gems just chilling around. Gotta find them all. Let's keep going. Next stage is up here in a network of trees and tree branches. It's more the same, just find the gems. I like how when you go into a tree, it teleports you around. It's pretty cool technology for a jungle. At the end of the stage is a boss fight with the LSD snake. Just throw some stuff at him, dodge his projectiles, jump on his head, and he's done. As I found a shovel somewhere in the level, I get to dig down into this bonus area, and this cavern is pretty large.
I'm surprised it hasn't turned into a giant sinkhole.
The next level has us jumping on elephants down here at the bottom. That's a cool addition, but otherwise it's the same as before. We're just looking for all the gems. But this time it requires 15. Ugh. In between level scenes says we are going to meet Baloo in a van down by the river. Did you know Baloo is the Hindi word for bear?
How's that for a throwback? All the way to episode 1.
The next level is on a river. No van and no Chris Farley though, but I swear, I tried this level a few times before I realized that one of the gems was hidden way over here. I mean, come on. Gosh, why? Ugh. We make it over to Hindi Bear, and I boomerang him with the bear necessities until he's decided that he's just had enough. Why he is a boss, I couldn't tell you. I thought he was Mowgli's friend. Well, I guess he's definitely our friend. He's letting us ride his body down the river after all. Before we get too much farther, I should probably comment on some of the important stuff regarding controls and gameplay. The controls for the game are finicky. Not awful, but they do require some mastery. When jumping, you cannot be touching the D-pad if you are trying to jump higher. If you need to catch a high, out-of-reach vine, you have to jump and then touch the D-pad. If not, you might end up just plunging down toward the land of lost lives. Finding these gems is truly a matter of exploration and experimentation, and the irksome nature of this escapade is exacerbated by the timer reaching triple SpaghettiOs. But the game is forgiving in that many extra lives, health refills in the form of grapes, and useful ammo are scattered about the levels and are easy to collect while looking for gems. But if there's one thing that just ruins the game, it's the speed. I mean, it feels so slow. Most of the footage you have seen so far has actually been sped up. So I guess this would be a good time to go ahead and do a history lesson. When people hear The Jungle Book, they usually think of the 1967 animated film, and of course there's a live-action CGI film from 2016, because reimagining is what we do now. I haven't seen the newer one, so I shouldn't pass judgment, but the appropriate name really should be The Jungle Movie. These films are adaptations of Rudyard Kipling's 1894 collection of stories known as The Jungle Book. Kipling spent part of his childhood in India, which may explain the use of Hindi words to name corresponding animals and characters in the setting of an Indian jungle. The stories were meant to teach moral lessons using anthropomorphized animals, and there is some evidence to suggest Kipling actually wrote the stories for his daughter.
The most bizarre aspect of this is the idea that 70 years later, Kipling's work was adapted into an animated film, a medium that didn't even exist at the time that he wrote those stories. Just think about that. Imagine if you at home wrote a story for one of your family members, and then in the year 2095, it was adapted into a brain implant that was shot into somebody's head through their nose.
Level 7 is really just more and more of the same, where you're running around this place because Mowgli was kidnapped by monkeys. And then after that is the endurance test of your ability to have mastered the jumping controls. It's a series of platforms that hairpin their way higher and higher. Every platform drops out from below you. If you have not figured out how to jump without touching the D-pad, then this part is complete misery. At least there is only one gem required in this level, and I'm going to guess it's at the top right before a boss fight. Eventually, I enter a trance-like state and get through these platforms, and have a boss battle with King Louie, where I boomerang him into unconsciousness. After that gauntlet of platforming insanity, I have to say I'm happy to have something other than jumping off platforms, but I am far from excited to still be playing this game.
And it's at this point that I realize I'm just not having fun anymore. I didn't love this game to start with, but I was initially satisfied with making progress. Wario's Woods was fantastic. The Smurfs pleasantly surprised me. Even Crash Test Dummies had something to offer. But what I really want to point out is we're on episode 5, and we've had 8 games make an appearance on this show. And 4 of them were tie-ins with the Big D. You know, the mouse. And not a single one of them was really any good. The Super Nintendo versions were fine, or even great, but it is what it is. Let's keep going, the end is near.
See? Even the game says so. Level 9 looks very similar to the beginning of the game, just at night. And with bats. But after this, we are informed that Shaka Khan is ahead.
Shaka Khan? Shaka Khan?
The only problem is the entire place is apparently on fire. Especially this area with Sher Khan. I managed to beat the Tiger Jerk, but I landed in the fire at the same time, so it didn't count. I guess that's fair. Final boss and all. After a few more attempts, I perfect my technique and he is beat. And after all this, we see Mowgli jump across a giant gap using hanging vines. This part is automated, and I'm glad I don't have to do it, because I wouldn't want to find out how far back it would take me if I fell right here from sheer con anticipation to finally be done. So some girl was singing a song, and then Mowgli likes it so much he decides to follow her into the village. He's going to be surprised when he meets the village people. I'm sure they are going to love hearing about how he gathered gems and fought off other jungle creatures to reach them. They're more likely to ask him where he found the shrooms.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. While that was no surprise at Dinosaur Peak, there was definitely a surprise, and we got to do some jungle-like platforming. Maybe one day we'll get the real game, but I'll tell you a secret about the next episode. A little hint, just don't tell the Nindevil. The next episode is sure to rock, man.
I'm talking about MegaMan. Did you get the hint? MegaMan. Come on. MegaMan. Did you get the hint? MegaMan. MegaMan. You know, MegaMan. That blue guy. He's next. Okay.
Dad, where are you doing the blueberry cobbler?
Don't tell the ham sandwich.